Humans have been telling stories for about as long as we know. Whether it's around campfires or through ancient myths or Twitter threads or TikToks, the things that make us feel something, anger, joy, frustration, sadness, are most often stories. In a way, stories are a pretty amazing machine for getting my thoughts and feelings into your mind. And it's one of the main reasons why they help us feel less alone. Think about the kind of story you would tell to a friend or a family member, or maybe someone you're just meeting for the first time. How do you hold their attention? What kinds of details do you use? And what would that story tell them about you? What kinds of things do you naturally do to hold their attention, to keep them listening? You might be using some humor. You might be using a little bit of suspense. What's going to happen next in this story? When you're writing, you're using the same tricks. You're trying to charm the reader, just like you're trying to charm that crush you just met. So when you're writing, it's best to pay attention to the things you already know how to do. Now, all stories at their core are kind of made up of two big building blocks: anecdote and reflection. Anecdote is the this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened of storytelling. It's the step-by-step action of the story. Reflection is when you, the storyteller, interrupt that action to explain something or give some information. In a story, it could be when a character stops to think about something, or when the present action is interrupted by a flashback. So here's a quick example story to give you an example of anecdote and reflection in action. I woke up this morning and looked at my phone, and like everyone else that morning, I learned that a giant portal had ripped open in the space-time continuum at Lolita's in Chula Vista. The only thing was my mom worked at Lolita's. I stumbled down the hallway, rubbing my hand along the rough wall. The lights were off in the living room. I sniffed, hoping to catch the smell of pancakes or coffee in the kitchen, or maybe some of that perfumed lotion she uses. I called out, "Mom?" No reply. I called louder, "Mom! Mom! Mom!" A voice answered back. It was not my mother's voice. So let's go back through. What's the reflection in this story? The only reflection is when the narrator interrupts the action to give us a little bit of background information that's important for us to know. In this case, there's a giant portal into another dimension. It opened up inside Lolita's, and the narrator's mom works there. It tells us a lot that we need to know to understand what that character is thinking and feeling about this particular situation. That means everything else is anecdote, that step-by-step action of the story. And notice how the story uses all five senses to place us in that action: smell, sight, taste, touch, and hearing. Isn't it interesting how a sense of suspense builds just by the narrator taking us through that step-by-step action? We're kind of trained from stories to know that if we're getting that level of detail and if we're following the present action, that it's building towards something. And so as we watch the narrator stand up, head down the hallway, look for some clue of their mom, we're waiting, knowing that there's going to be some big reveal. Even if we don't know that the big reveal is that the narrator's mom has been replaced by an alien from another dimension. But as an experiment, try taking out some of the reflection. What happens if we don't know that the narrator's mom works at Lolita's? There's still some suspense, that natural suspense of following the action in the present, but we've lost the personal stakes. We've lost those personal clues that allow us to imagine what the narrator may be feeling as they walk down the hallway. So by playing with your balance of anecdote and reflection, these two things that you do naturally when you tell stories in your everyday life, you can create all kinds of wonderful different storytelling effects, from suspense to heartbreak to surprise. And so these are our basic building blocks that we're going to play with as we move into telling more imaginative stories.